So do you want to kind of kick us off with some information about character creation?
Yeah. So character creation, creating your super. It's a quick process. We only have 10 steps to actually create your super, and the first 2 or 3 is just who are you and what's your secret identity if you have one, right? So with character creation, just some background here. Every super in our game has ability to go up to level 20, level 20 being our max level. But with that, every level you're able to actually add on more to your super. So we have things where you can get more effective in your combat stats. So you can add more to that. You're gaining more expertise in some of the skills that Zarek just explained. So as you're going and growing, you can actually increase those things as well, and as well as unlocking different powers and power tiers. So that way you can become more effective in combat and even outside of combat, and being able to use more powers to your benefit. So one of the first things that you will choose then along the process is your archetype. What are archetypes? Archetypes determine your main role in your team for you and the other supers. So, are you that person that is more in the back end, that you're trying to blast away and keep a distance, that kind of like glass cannon person? Are you that person that is, wants to heal others, make sure other people are, staying up? Are you that person that is just in the fight, in like face to face with somebody and like threatening them to come towards you, that protector kind of feel? Or are you the in between, in the middle of the field, that you are you're halfway between being in front of them and halfway between being at a distance and trying to be sneaky while you're doing that? Well, the archetypes that we have 5 of them right now. The Arbiter is our first archetype, and the Arbiter is all about being an effective healer, a support team member. But please don't get it twisted. An Arbiter can easily turn into somebody who can deal some damage as well. So they can go out there and be pretty effective in that as well when they need to. The Blaster is all in on high damage and a lot less of the defense on their end. So being able to actually, again, be at a high distance, but being able to blast away with whatever powers they are. The Bruiser is one of our first melee archetypes. This is one that they are right in your face. They are trying to knock down opponents. They're trying to grapple them. They're trying to really just control whatever is in front of them. And then our Guardian. Our Guardian is kind of that, it's still a melee focus, but they are a person that is, they have more defensive tools at hand, so that way they can last longer if they're going toe to toe with, that big villain, that big enemy. But they are that kind of protector, and they're there to go out there and just be something that can take some hits, but also dish some as well when needed. And then, like I said, as far as that midfielder, it's a hunter. So the hunter is somebody who can effectively go out there and sneak around. They can actually camouflage. They can actually disappear right in the heat of combat and come back and deal some pretty strong hits towards a villain when they least expect it. So those are some of our archetypes. The cool thing about our archetypes is you can mix and match them with our power sets. We have many different many different combination of our power sets that you can actually play into. And I'll have Zarek go ahead and get started talking about some of the different power sets that are available for character creation.
Yeah, so power sets really are the second kind of aspect that ties into your character and what they can do in combat. We don't have classes like a lot of fantasy games do. As Ricky mentioned, we have these archetypes, which you combine with the power sets. Power sets, kind of like the other side of archetypes, they tell you exactly what you can do, and your powers, really, or skills, depending on your origin, which we'll get into in a little bit as well. So, to start off, we've got Earth Manipulation. Supers that use the Earth Manipulation power set, their inherent effect, which is something that every power set has, something that is going to be activated very regularly, kind of like a passive in video games. Theirs is stone skin, and so they're going to generate layers of protective stone that gives them shields and guards their health points. And they have a lot of defensive powers and utility and control as well. So Anybody can be an Earth Manipulation user, of course. As Ricky said, the blaster is our ranged damage dealer. You can be a blaster with Earth Manipulation, though Earth Manipulation is going to kind of guide you more, or lean you a little bit more on the defensive side. You still will be very good at dealing damage. It's just mostly your inherent effect is going to kind of, give you that extra layer of defense. Then we have Fire Manipulation. Fire Manipulation, like Ricky said, you can throw swaths of flame out on the field, explosions, even like jet boosters. One of our favorite powers is Hot Feet, where you kind of dash using maybe a burst of flame to propel you. And as kind of everybody would imagine, Fire Manipulation is very destructive. It can harm allies, but it's very good at harming enemies as well. And the inherent effect is burning flames. So when you deal damage to targets, they're going to catch on fire and take damage every turn. So Fire Manipulation is very good at dealing damage and being consistent in doing it. The next one is Ice Manipulation. Kind of like a jack of all trades, if you will. They've got some good damage, good single target damage, and good utility. Also some good mobility powers. We try to give every power set kind of a good mix, but some will focus more on on certain aspects. So Ice Manipulation's inherent effect, it makes them very good at controlling the battlefield. It's freezing ice. They're going to chill people when they deal damage. And then once they build up enough chill stacks, they're going to become frozen. And once frozen, an Ice Manipulation super gets additional critical chance against that target. And without going too deep into it, critical chance in our game, instead of just hitting a natural 20, you can actually increase the value on the dice that causes a critical hit. So for Ice Manipulation, if you're attacking a frozen target, you could crit on a roll of an 18 even. At higher levels, it even goes down to, I think, a 16 at the highest when you hit level 20. So yeah, Ice Manipulation can be very devastating as far as control, and kind of there's a trade-off there with dealing high single target damage. And then we have Electricity Manipulation. Electricity Manipulation is going to be controlling electricity, more than just direct electricity. You can control electromagnetic fields and even recharge yourself and allies. Electricity Manipulation's inherent effect is the Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning will, when you deal damage, is going to jump lightning around and deal damage to more targets. So they're good kind of naturally at dealing a good amount of damage across multiple targets, among their other kind of utility skills and things like that. Then we have Light Energy. Light Energy is our kind of biggest healing and supportive focused power set, though again the Arbiter is going to be able to make any power set supportive in nature. I shouldn't say in nature, they're going to be able to make it supportive, but Light Energy as its natural state is supportive. So you can have a bruiser or blaster who's good at healing and supporting allies. But again, like Ricky said earlier, don't be surprised if a Light Energy super is dealing a lot of damage as well. Their inherent effect is Surging Light. When they use their powers, they're going to build up stacks of Surging Light that they can then release and deal extra damage or healing on a single target with one of their powers.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we've got Weapon Mastery. Weapon Mastery is actually one of my favorites. It's not just swords, it's bows, guns, any kind of weapon you can think of, ninja stars, throwing weapons, anything like that falls under Weapon Mastery. And just because it's all kind of around skill and that honed mastery of using weapons to devastating effect. And so they're very focused on using attacks. They don't have a lot of powers that have checks or like area of effect stuff. They're focused on attacking enemies, and their inherent effect is finishing blow and combo points. So they build up combo points with successful hits with their attacks, and then they can unleash those combo points to do a finishing blow, which is a guaranteed hit. It just takes, there's a bit of chance involved there, but once they kind of get on a roll and get that combo built up, they'll do a devastating hit. Ricky, do you want to talk about these last few here? You want to talk about the last few power sets for us?
Yeah. So going into the next one, we got super strength. So these are your heroes that, I mean, they've got muscles on muscles, right? They're able to really unleash a whole bunch of their might on their enemies to devastating effects. They also can kind of do some things where they'll clap their hands and they're able to actually send out different waves as well. So strong, they're able to actually do that. But their ability to be able to use Supreme Might as an inherent effect is going to allow them to deal additional damage and also add to their checks. However, it's going to deal damage back to them as well. So it's kind of, hey, you're big and buff, right? But you're going to take some damage as well because you're not doing exactly, with a lot of dexterity and accuracy. You're just trying to deal damage. So really cool. Yeah, pushing your limits, and then the higher up that you go, you're doing some really serious damage as you go along the way. All right, let's talk about gadgetry. So gadgetry is a power set where you can imagine the most, crazy kind of lab doctor, or maybe some kind of, person who Cape Crusader, somebody who just has tons and tons of gear on them, always ready for all kinds of mayhem and perhaps being able to save the day in some nonsensical ways. So one of their inherent effects, or their inherent effect rather, is nonsensical inventions. And what that does is that the gadgeteer can be somebody who can buff up either themselves or somebody else on the battlefield. So they can quickly create things like throwing spiked gloves onto a nearby ally, giving them more damage, popping a shield in front of somebody or on themselves in case a villain is coming too close to them and they need some extra defense. And getting other things like that, putting on power armor, and even trying to actually use a laser saber to be able to do more damage or to have a higher chance of dealing critical hits. So gadgetry is really fun. A lot of the power set itself is random doodads, random things that you can find bits and pieces of different kind of elemental works and things like that. But it's really, really fun because you can go out there and be that not only supportive, but you could also deal some pretty heavy damage in an area of effect as well.
Yeah, you should probably, you want to talk about your inspiration for gadgetry since you worked on gadgetry mostly?
Yeah, so I was watching Rick and Morty very crazily when I met Zarek and started really talking about creating different power sets. And gadgetry was just one that I really wanted to jump on because I wanted to make a Rick Sanchez. I wanted to make this mad scientist guy that had a tool for quite literally everything, right? And being able to just have the ability to create these things ad hoc whenever, and then the flavor aspect of it too, that a player, they could say, okay, I'm going to use my flame shot, but it's not a gun that pops up, it's something that I throw or something. We have that in our game that you can really customize and tweak that. So what a great way to tweak that in having the gadgetry power set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah
I love it.
Yeah. So the next big power set that I had a hand in too was psionics. So psionics, really fun. This is a power set that allows you to really kind of go into the mind of your adversaries, to cause a lot of stress, to use psi energy and even create weapons out of your psi energy that is all around you and you're manifesting from within. Its inherent effect, stressful presence, is going to allow you to effectively deal additional damage to enemies that are nearby. And later, when we talk about talents and how they work, you can tweak even how that inherent effect works, extending its range or dealing more damage, et cetera, being able to really do some cool stuff with that, and helping you out on things like making additional intellect checks and so on. It's really, really cool, but it's a great, not just supportive, but high damage dealer. When you look at it, you can really deal damage to a big group of folks and then help other people on your team be able to go in and finish it out. And so with psionics, it's really fun because you can go out there and you can blast some mines and so on. You can nullify pain even, and reduce the incoming amount of damage coming in, because it's just a mind switch that you work into your power as well. So absolutely love psionics and what it can actually do on the battlefield. And then from there, one of our last power sets for now, but not least, martial arts and Kai manipulation. So martial arts and Kai manipulation is all about being able to manifest Kai energy. So we've taken a lot of inspiration from different games like Street Fighter, different movies and shows like DBZ, Dragon Ball Z, those kind of things. And we also have on our team here somebody who used to be all about MMA and fighting. So that's Zarek. And we really wanted to mix all those things together and have the heart and spirit of a true fighter in it. So a lot of the martial arts moves, they were inspired by Zarek. Again, having some of that background. So Zarek, maybe you want to talk about some of that and some of the inspiration as you were building it out?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I definitely included a lot of traditional martial arts, kind of like hints and nods. Obviously being a superhero game, we wanted it to be very fun and flashy too. So we have a lot of Dragon Ball Z, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon sort of vibes in it as well. But we did want to kind of keep a lot of traditional feel and nods back to those roots. I had quite a bit of experience doing martial arts. I did it when I was a teenager for quite some time, and so I was just very invested in it. And yeah, so with the key as kind of one part of your inherent effect, you can activate Kara or use key for some powers even as well. And that Kara is kind of like that Dragon Ball Z Kaioken, so it kind of enhances you, makes you faster, stronger, better kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, Ricky kind of explained all of it. We got lots of fun powers. If you've watched Dragon Ball Z, or like I said, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Jet Li's Fearless, stuff like that, you'll definitely see some hints and kind of, what would you call that? Some notes of that.
Yeah.
Throwbacks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Literally throwbacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then, part of power sets really is the talent system. So in Indominant, every archetype gets a specific set of talents for each power set. So if you do the math, with all these 10 power sets that we just spoke about and the 5 archetypes that we have right now, the 10 and 5 right now, we've got 50 different unique sets of talents. And each archetype has 10, one for each power set. And then as Ricky mentioned, for now, when we add new power sets, they're going to add new talents as well. Those talents really modify how your character can play the game. You can hone in on a play style, kind of like branch out and get good at a bunch of different things. You can even modify your inherent effect in a lot of different ways. Every archetype gets 3 different ways to change it. Kind of go with one that keeps it similar to its original, but maybe adds or changes a little effect to make it more towards that archetype's playstyle, and then 2 that'll greatly modify how that works. And then of course there's 10 tiers, so we've got a lot of different options for you. There's 3 talents in every tier, so you've got 30 total options just in one talent set, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I first played the game, I came in as a play tester, and it was just really fun to see how I could make my weapon mastery hunter stand out. There was a point where I was actually really kind of like a distance fighter, and yet I saw that some of the threats were coming in close, right? That they were getting right in front of my face. And so I was all offensive, so I fell like a glass tower, And so what I did was, I worked on my super with Zarek, who was actually our comic editor at the time, and I was actually able to tweak some of the talents that made him more defensive, added a bit more of either a damage reduction or defense, just to be able to take a little bit more hits and balance it off, right? And I think it really worked well, because the next session I was able to actually jump in and be a bit better at actually helping my team members, right? Who were very much a mix of high damage or high healing. And I was kind of right there in the middle because I could take a couple hits for them as well. So really, really enjoyed that. And that's a kind of a tenet, a pillar of Indominant, that we want to give you all the options to really work as a team and not, pigeonhole you into one kind of play style, right? If four of you want to be the same exact archetype, that's okay. Maybe you are all hunters. Well, the combination of how you use your powers and then on top of that, how you're actually changing up your talents, it's crazy. There's so many different options, and each one of you can go in and take those different options and see how that works. And in game, we give you some real options to be able to role play that out. If for my case, when I was the weapon mastery, perhaps I changed out my weapons, right? And I made myself, okay, I want to put additional gear on and role playing that, right? And as a result of that, it makes sense of why my talent then had changed, or maybe I had switched out a different power inside my power set, so I had a couple more defensive powers available to me. So a lot of customization there. Awesome. So but let's get into actually building out your actual super. I'll toss it back to you, Zarek. Let's talk about origins.
Yeah, so with origins, that's really the source of your powers, or maybe how you use your powers or how you got them. And each origin is kind of a general category. Different. There's still different little details and notes you can kind of modify in there to make your powers unique and special. But each origin gives you some different bonuses and some skill expertise as well. So we have technology, kind of is what it says it is, right? You use technology, maybe you were enhanced with technology. There's kind of a different, just some kind of inclusion of technology is how you have or use your powers. So maybe you don't actually have powers, quote unquote, but you are a super because you've got some really badass technology that makes you super. And then we've got magic. Magic again, these are all going to be kind of clear in what they are. You use magic in some way. Maybe your character has magical runes etched in their skin that allow them to use magic or empower their magical ability, or maybe you're just kind of like a wizard or a sorcerer, and so that's how you use magic to have powers. And then we've got mutation. Mutation is something like a mutant, of course, but you might have had a genetic mutation at birth, maybe some kind of outside chemical or interaction mutated your body to give you your powers, but some sort of mutation being the source. And then science is the next, and science, kind of again, maybe you can kind of mix and match or conflate some of these with others, but science really is any kind of scientific change in your body, right? Big green guy that we all know is very angry, right? That's a good example. He was in a big radioactive accident and that gave him his powers. A blue glowing super powerful guy, if you like Watchmen, he kind of same thing. He's in an accident that radiated him and he became super. You may also have gotten a chemical injection, and that is what gave you your powers. You had a scientific chemist create you might have had a crazy scientist, create a concoction that changed you forever if you were part of an experiment or something like that. And then natural, and natural is somebody who maybe just part of their being, whether they're an alien species and their powers just are part of their existence, and maybe from their planet they aren't that special, but they're the last surviving person from that species, and so they are special to the rest of the universe. Or maybe you just are a highly trained warrior. Ricky was mentioning the weapon mastery or martial arts. Those power sets both fit very well, though any power set really can go with natural. And yeah, it's just you've trained and mastered your skills, and so you have a natural ability to have your powers or your skills. And then after origins, we've got backgrounds. Ricky, if you want to speak some on backgrounds.
Yeah, absolutely. So backgrounds are fun, right? These are where you really ask yourself, are you a hero, a villain, or something in between? And in choosing a background, it's still not something that we ever want to lock you in place or whatnot, but it's really, if you could think about it, how does your super live in the world? What are they doing? What are they looking for, and so on. So the first background is really in the name, being a hero. And hero is a person that is that ultimate good character, right? They're going to go out there, they're going to go and try to save the day, save lives, and so on. They're going to work with other heroes. They're going to work with people that want to actually organize and be able to help and impact different communities and things like that. And most of the heroes in our universe are registered supers, so they are with the Galactic Legion United, and they are actually registered on that, so that way they can actually use some of their resources, like flying around or getting to place, that kind of thing. But it doesn't mean that the other backgrounds aren't necessarily working with the GLU or registered either. In fact, one of the next ones is contractor. So a contractor is a person that they've got these powers, right? But they're only in it for the money, right? They just want to get the job done. They're just going to go out there. They're going to get it done. They may not have that that high moral compass. They're more of deciding, hey, I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to get paid for this thing. I want to move on to the next thing. I need to meet the objective, right? Then there's the side where I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do and give justice to those that deserve it, and I'm going to do it any way I want to, and that's the vigilante background. So the vigilante is your typical person that they may go around the law, but they're definitely going after the bad people, right? They're going after the people that do need to be behind bars and all that. They're the ones pursuing the villain still. However, the vigilante is still, they're just going after that kind of that bad person, right? And then from there, you change things up a little bit. We offer a background called the suits. So this is a person that, imagine somebody who's working an office job, a 9 to 5. They're in the middle, of a, fictional city. Let's just imagine New York City or whatever. They're in this awesome suit, and suddenly some kind of, spider insect bites them, and it causes mutations to happen, or whatever it is. They fall into some kind of manhole, and suddenly they have powers somehow, right? But at the end of the day, underneath the suit is some kind of super powered individual. So this is a person that is looking for maybe using their powers for entrepreneurship, is looking to actually go out there and actually make deals, perhaps. Whatever it is they're doing, they're looking at the world a bit differently because they want to make an opportunity, right? They out of perhaps something that had happened in their life, or they're seeing an opportunity in the area. The opposite of a suits is a drifter. A drifter is a person, they've got their powers, but they want to be left alone. They don't want to be good or bad. They just want to protect themselves, protect their own, protect what little they may have. They may be going from city to city. They may be going to different places and whatnot, and do whatever it takes to just survive, or perhaps protect the people that are important to them or the things that are important to them. Meanwhile, on the other end of the spectrum is the villain or the criminal. We have villains that are a part of criminal syndicates in our universe, but overall, the villain is the background. And being able to be the villain, perhaps you can be one that is undercover, right? You're acting as a hero. You're joining, becoming a registered super, and trying to use all these resources to get more information, or to put yourself in the right area, right, to have the most influence, so that way you can go out there and enact your villainous story. So being able to make that choice is something as well. And then one of the final backgrounds that we offer is what's called a researcher. So this is a well-studied individual. This is, you can imagine a certain sorcerer who studied hundreds of thousands of books, just to be able to actually pursue knowledge. They're looking for something. That's what they hunger for. They're going to go, they don't care about necessarily the way they live. They care more about, are they pursuing knowledge? Are they constantly actually learning something? So all these backgrounds, these shouldn't dictate entirely who you are in the world, but they give you a really good story start, right? To actually think about, okay, my person is this person who maybe they are a villain, but they're working on becoming a hero. Perhaps they are a suits, they want to make money. but they want to do it with a certain particular contract or whatnot, right? They
Hmm.
either bit pretty much like templates or rubrics to get started in. And in our game, it's actually where you get started as far as when you enter the game. But things can certainly change over time through your story. In talking about background starting your story, there's an entire step of our character creation that's all optional, except for one step of it, and it's called creating your story. And the one optional piece is, well, you actually do need to make a name for your super, right? Whether it is just their regular identity, right? Like I'm Ricky Rivera, or I'm Black Arrow, who in my playtest that's who I actually played as, right?
Yeah. Don't give
And
away your
so
secret identity, Ricky.
I know. But your name is very important, right? Your secret identity, whether it's secret or it's out in the open. Perhaps you're like an Iron Man and you just tell the world who you are, and people can, know that, right? So your name is obviously important. We do give you a lot of resources to have names within the actual the realm and sorry, the actual species that we do have. So if you want a Cenarian name, if you want a Genicky name, those kind of things would give you some fun samples and so on to start that with. So that way you aren't just creating a name out of nowhere, but you can actually go ahead and name yourself anything you like. But
Hmm.
another big part of your story is how do you actually use your powers? We've talked about power set selection, right? We've talked about your talents and archetypes. Those are all the mechanics behind it. But what's the flavor that you're using to actually use a power? Do you have a staff? Do you use a ring? Do you have a shield? Right? Maybe you have a hammer. Whatever it is that you have, how do you actually use your powers? We'll provide you the mechanics, but this is a fun part where you can jump in, and we give you a lot of examples of where to start in using your powers, and as well as an optional item that you can actually start the game with is called an origin item. So these origin items, these are fun items that really they start your story, right? They're your story starters. Perhaps it is a locket of a loved one, and when you open it one day, it has some kind of map in it or something, right? Perhaps there is some kind of item that you find that is actually a GPS or some kind of map, something that, again, just leading you somewhere. Perhaps it's some kind of thing that only you know about, some other item that's like musical or only you can hear it, whatever it is. We give you a couple different items just to start with, but these are great points for you to work with your comic editor to start your story on as well, right? And say, hey, I want to pursue the owner of this lockbox because I can't open it, and it suddenly appeared within my room, and that's how I actually got my magical powers. This box gave me these powers, but I
Hmm.
don't understand it, right? So these are all different great ways that your comic editor can now be equipped to give you an awesome story that you and your friends can all play together. Another thing to think about in creating your story is the important people or perhaps organizations that are in your actual story. Perhaps your super has an uncle that loves you, takes care of you, always, always has food ready for you to see you out the door. They've taken care of you for a long time, and they're somebody that you're willing to protect, right? Perhaps you have a whole family, or siblings or things like that are important to you in your story, and that you want them to be there, right? So talking about them is important and crucial for your comic editor so they can build stories around it. And one of the fun part is saying about what organizations that you may be a part of as well. If you're going perhaps the villain route, perhaps you're actually trying to be a villain out on your own and you're trying to get away from a criminal syndicate. And so by being that person that is breaking free from the syndicate, if any of those syndicate members find you or see you, they could be some of the major threats that you'll have to face, overcome, get through, whatever makes sense in your actual story. So those associations, those organizations that you're tied to, very, very fun, story points that you can go and explore while you're playing with others. Now,
Yeah.
another fun one that we've been seeing
Well,
as well. Oh,
sorry,
go ahead, Sarah.
I just want to make sure we note one thing. As Ricky's explaining all of these are just examples that we give in the book, or some of these may not be in the book, but the idea is we have a lot of different tables with just maybe places to get you started, but anything in here can be completely customizable. These are just a lot of the really fun and cool ideas that Ricky's created or our team's created and put in the books to kind of help maybe get your brain going, get your gears going.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead
absolutely.
and continue.
Yeah, for sure. So absolutely, like all of these are just those kind of starting points to just get you going, right? And the entire section, aside from your name, again, is that optional part where you can kind of skip over, and perhaps your story is you have to find these things out, right? So another fun one is quirks and oddities. I don't know if you've seen me so far, but I've been drinking like an energy drink. Perhaps your super is absolutely addicted to energy drinks, right? Or perhaps they're the absolute opposite. Perhaps they're very fidgety. Perhaps if they see donuts that are on a table, a bar, or whatever, right? They see donuts or sugary treats, they just jump on them, right, and pounce on them. We have a great playtester who is a robot, a chromid, and he literally saw donuts, and he says his quirk is that he has to go and try to eat it, even though as a robot he can't eat it. So
Yeah.
it's the funnest thing to be able to just see like what oddities that may make sense or have fun with it as well, to be able to role play out. Again, totally optional thing, but we have different things that you could be scared of as well, things that you would jump to, or rather your super would jump around as well. So just fun things to throw in to who your super is, what they're like. And then we start getting around to physical characteristics. Is your super very tall? Are they tall for the species that they're actually playing as? Are they half horse, half human? I actually got a chance to play as somebody like that, and I called them equestrian, but they're half horse and a half human. So it was really fun. But like being able to explain those kind of looks, give some samples and some different looks and styles that you could perhaps wear as well, and that gets into your costume looks as well, right? So what does your costume actually look like? Does he wear a costume? Do they wear a costume? Are they in a suit? Are they in just a shirt? Are they in sweats? That's okay. Whatever makes the most sense for your actual super. But the actual in this section, the costume looks don't. Excuse me. These costume looks don't affect your combat ability at all. But what I'll have Zarek actually talk about is costume upgrades. So being able to make upgrades and how they actually can impact the effectiveness of your super. So Zarek, would you mind?
Yeah, so with costume upgrades, like Ricky said, they're not really tied to the way your costume looks, but they are tied to the way maybe it functions, in the mechanical sense as well as the thematic sense a little bit. We have costume upgrades where you have different materials and different modifications, and you can choose one of each to add into your costume. Maybe you've got these special alloy fibers that reinforce your costume and kind of help protect you from getting hurt, or maybe you've got these really flexible fibers woven into your suit, and that just lets you be a little more limber and mobile. And then with modifications, these are things where maybe it's bracers that you've added on top of your forearms. Kind of like the Cape Crusader, right? He's got the little blades sticking out of his bracers, or maybe it's a cape. A kind of cape that might protect you or just give you a little bit of extra kind of like lightness so you can move faster, or it might be something like a shoulder mounted cannon, or something like that. Again, there is some leeway for you to kind of thematically design what these are, but they are modifications are additions to your suit, whereas materials are parts of your suit, if that makes sense. And that
Yeah.
really wraps it up for a lot of the big things in Indominant. We'll have future videos where we go more in depth on some of these topics, maybe talk about specific, archetypes or power sets. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, overall, thank you guys so much for being able to listen in on Indominate and having us talk about our game. We have our primer available on our website, odinskeygaming.com. I'll likely have Zarek probably put it up here or over there, or wherever makes sense.
hmm
But we'd love for you to be able to go in for absolutely free, check out the game. Tell us about it. You can contact us through the website as well, through YouTube and comments as well. But we are having play tests and games going on all the time as well. So we're really looking forward to any feedback.
yeah. And we also have a Patreon, which you can see through our website. Our Patreon is where you can get monthly content, pre-made stories. We also have some other rewards like a monthly developer stream where we talk about a specific topic and go more in depth on those, and some other fun things, of course, too. But yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank
See
you.
you on the next one.
Bye bye.